Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. As predicted, spoiler alert, Asajj Ventress has returned in the Bad Batch and she really doesn't look all that worse for wear, despite all that she has gone through over the last few years, including an untimely death caused by overexposure to Sith lightning. This new art style in the Bad Batch, with its gentle lighting and more organic textures, means this is the softest and most approachable we've seen this old Clone Wars villain. And not just aesthetically, mind you. There was a time when if you looked at Ventress the wrong way, then it was just off with your head. But if you've been following her story since then, you'll probably know that she's been trying to improve herself, change her ways, and seize control over her own life. This is a new Ventress who struggled to create her own values, her own goals. And she can be a great asset to the Bad Batch, but only if they can trust her.
I checked text files from the Republic archives. You're right. It's her. Asajj Ventress.
So right when Asajj arrives on Pabu, Hunter has Crosshair go through text records to make sure exactly who they're dealing with here. From all indications, the Bad Batch are not a part of the first generation of clones like Captain Rex. They seem to have been made a bit later. This means it's possible that Hunter and the Bad Batch didn't serve at the same time as Ventress did in the beginning of the Clone Wars. It was in the first 2 years of the Clone Wars when the Sith assassin had made the biggest impact. She would have been on most clones' mission briefings as she was a high priority target and one of the most dangerous separatist generals out there.
Why would a separatist assassin be helping us?
Who says that's what she's doing?
And so while the Bad Batch might have never fought directly against Asajj Ventress, it's clear that she was well known amongst the general clone population. She was kind of like a legend, a boogeyman, if you will. Especially when you consider the very specific and one might say personal actions Ventress took against the clones. And even though the Bad Batch's entire world and perception of the Grand Army of the Republic has been turned upside down ever since the rise of the New Order, there are still some old beliefs and habits that were hard to shake.
What? Stop! What's going on?
She's been lying to us, Omega. She's a war criminal.
By the way, this meetup between Asajj Ventress and the Bad Batch reminds me a lot of that old Rebels episode where Captain Rex ends up encountering a separatist unit that has no idea the Clone Wars has ended even a decade after the conflict was over.
We were pawned in the same war, and we all lost.
She's saying the truth here, but can the clones open their eyes to it? Can Asajj Ventress win redemption so easily? We have to remember the Clone Wars was kind of a strange and artificially manufactured conflict. The clones, for the most part, were dealing with clankers, all different sizes and shapes and models of battle droids who were uniform in their appearance and construction. It was quite hard to put a visible face on the enemy. And so instead of shooting actual people, the clones were just shooting things, robots. Well, actually, no, the Grand Army of the Republic did occasionally have to fight separatist planetary defense forces, but you know, the Clone Wars TV show didn't really like showing that. The Clone Wars was a TV show for kids. It would have been a very different show if the Jedi and clones were gunning down living beings all the time instead of just inanimate robots. And so for the Grand Army of the Republic, for the clone troopers, they had to steer all of their aggression and anger towards the more visible faces that were leading the Separatist army. First, you had different types of droid commanders ranging from B-1 command units to super tactical droids, but then again, they were droids still. But then you had mercenaries like Admiral Trench, General Worm Loathsome, Captain Martuk, or Rift Hampson. You also had your higher ranking leaders like the Separatist High Council, Count Dooku, and the generals and assassins who served beneath him. I'm sure Republic High Command had like a deck of cards, you know, for all the clone troopers to be familiar with these higher value targets. Now, Grievous was seen as Dooku's favorite military leader, but Asajj Ventress, especially in the beginning of the war, was competing for a similar role despite being just an assassin. And so other than Grievous, Ventress became one of the most feared and hated separatist leaders amongst the clone ranks. You see, Ventress wasn't just known for being very capable, she was also exceptionally cruel for no reason and very unpredictable. In one of her first battles, she would go up against a Jedi Master named Thom. Asajj was under orders to spare Thom's life by Count Dooku, but her bloodlust was such that she didn't listen and she would execute the Jedi. Master Thom's apprentice, get this, was Quinlan Vos, and this death would kind of send the Jedi spiraling out of control. This unnecessarily cruel action would actually cost Asajj greatly in the future when she would actually work alongside Quinlan Vos and develop romantic feelings for her. I mean, that basically sums up Asajj Ventress's life. She made a lot of terrible, cruel mistakes in the earlier portion of her life, especially during the Clone Wars, and she spends the second half of her life, I guess, trying to fix up everything now. Now, the next time she emerges in the war is during the Battle of Christus, where she pulls off one of the most unexpected operations of the war. She manages to somehow corrupt a clone trooper by the name of Sergeant Slick and turns him against the rest of the clones. Now, not only did Sergeant Slick feed the Separatist information about the Republic troop movement and numbers, he also sabotaged the motor pool at a major Republic base. The physical damage of Sergeant Slick's betrayal was quite devastating, but for the clones, what was worse was the knowledge that one of their own brothers had actually been turned against them. And the scary thing is Ventress didn't achieve this by using some magical potion or elixir or, inhibitor chip. She had exploited this clone's greed, or perhaps she just told this clone the truth about his situation. Either way, it's not a good sign.
It's the Jedi who keep my brothers enslaved. We do your bidding. We serve at your whim. I just wanted something more. And all you had to do to get it was put the rest of us all at risk.
We have to remember, for the clones, seeing one of their own become disloyal to the Republic was a huge deal. First, the clones all came from the same genetics. If one clone could behave this way, then it was believed that all clones could behave that way. Behaviors such as this could spread across the ranks like a virus. Second, it wasn't just the Republic that Sergeant Slick was betraying, he was actually betraying his family, his larger extended family. And this was at the core of the entire clone army's integrity, the fact that this family unit was strong, that all these clones could depend on the fact that they had each other's back. Now, whether what Ventress said to Sergeant Slick was true or not didn't really matter. What mattered was that one person, an outsider, a woman, could create such division. Now that was troubling. And so this one incident plays a huge factor in creating a very negative image around Ventress, especially in the eyes of the clones. She's not just dangerous like Grievous with as many arms and lightsabers. Ventress was sneaky, tricky, venomous. She could even turn your brothers against you, which of course is a different type of horror that your average soldier might not understand. Blasters and explosions are something they're trained to handle, but to have to fight your own brother, that's the last thing any clone wants to do. Now, Ventress would later go on to even turn a Republic Senate commando against his own men as well when trying to free Newt Gunray from the Separatists, further increasing just how dangerous of an individual she is. And for the clones, this hatred of Ventress wasn't just about fear, it was also very much personal. And see, all throughout the war, the Separatists would try to target the world of Camino, where all the clone troopers for the Grand Army of the Republic were being created and raised. Camino was seen as the home world for the clones, and so every member of the JR had an affinity to the planet. One of the most devastating attacks against Camino was actually carried out by Grievous and Asajj Ventress. While Grievous led a more direct, conventional attack against the Republic fleet and ground defenses, Asajj Ventress would infiltrate Tipica City while hiding aboard some wreckage that had fallen from orbit earlier on in the battle. The Separatists' goal was to destroy the clone production facilities on the planet, and Asajj Ventress was tasked with stealing the source of genetic material for all of the clones. As we'll learn later on, keeping the Fett DNA preserved perfectly was essential for creating future generations of Fett clones.
The original genetic material from Jango Fett continues to degrade. Such a contingency cannot be created without a direct source.
This attack on Camino, an attempted theft of the Fett DNA, was seen as a personal attack against every clone trooper in the Grand Army of the Republic. I'm almost positive that Palpatine's Compor during the war would have played this attack up as such. You would want every clone in the galaxy fighting on the front lines to know that the Separatists had just attacked their homeworld and attempted to wipe out their entire bloodline. And Asajj Ventress, well, she was the one who did it all. It was thanks to her so many young clone cadets died, so many clone tubes were destroyed. You can even indirectly blame her for the death of 99, who would actually serve as the inspiration for Clone Force 99, or the Bad Batch. I'm also sure that surveillance footage of this clone's death would somehow make it out onto the wider holonet and be passed around by clone troopers who would watch with a mixture of horror and morbid fascination. That kiss might not seem like a big deal, especially when placed alongside Asajj Ventress's greatest hits, but that's the kind of kiss that creates a powerful image that can go viral. And I'm pretty sure that every clone trooper has seen that video of Asajj Ventress murdering that poor clone ARC captain. And I'm sure this is the image they show every young cadet who's kind of acting out of line. This is the frightening hairless banshee who will gut you like a fish or mock you as you die if you don't train properly for the job. So you see, Asajj Ventress wasn't like any other separatist general. For most clones, she was the face of evil, even more so than Dooku and Grievous. For the clones, Asajj Ventress's attacks against things they held dear made it all very personal. And it was clear in every other battle she was involved with that she didn't adhere to the rules and limits of warfare, which is why she gets labeled as a war criminal in the first place. For instance, we have the showdown in Ragusa earlier in the war, where the Republic secretly contacted the King of Todaria in order to arrange for a refueling depot in their system. Asajj Ventress was sent to stop this meeting, literally, with a small droid army. Ventress and the Todarian King end up having a small wager. Her forces will be allowed to stop the Republic emissary, Jedi Master Yoda, from reaching them, but if Asajj's forces aren't able to stop the Jedi, then the King is free to negotiate with them. And of course, Yoda makes quick work of Ventress's forces and ends up winning the bet, but Ventress would try to kill the Todarian King anyway, just showing us that you really can't trust her at all. In another incident, Asajj Ventress would kidnap the son of Jabba the Hutt. The Republic and Separatists were fighting over who had access to Hutt space, and Dooku was trying to shift the negotiations in his favor by pinning the kidnapping on the Republic. Once again, Asajj Ventress is assigned to the dirtiest and lowest jobs within the Separatist Alliance. So when the Bad Batch see Omega emerging from this cave with a well-known war criminal in tow, it was probably shocking for them. The fact that they let Omega actually hang around Asajj Ventress at all shows us just how much they have matured since the end of the conflict. And hopefully we'll get to see how much Asajj Ventress has changed after all these years in the remaining episodes of the Bad Batch. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy. I'll see you next time.